Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Just trying to get the music. Well, the bird song.
Have you got one of those?
The
The
July to December classes.
You sure?
I've got one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I just shoved some out in case because I know we started doling them out last week. I think.
How's the new photocopier?
Well, I've got ink in it now again. After 3 emails trying to tell them I can't actually function with a photocopier that doesn't have any stuff in it.
New one.
Yeah, new one. In July to December. With a few changes and a few different classes and a few that I've had to ditch. But it's just the way it is.
I think I'm gonna shift my emphasis to drawing.
Are you?
You know my cycle
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
idea? Well, my new bike arrived a couple of weeks back and I'm
Yeah.
using it. And I sort of often take a picnic, put the blanket out with me and the sort of panniers and things, and find somewhere nice in the country.
Yeah.
Sit down, meditate, read. And I took some tomatoes in a little Tupperware thing. And by the time I arrived, it was puree.
Oh.
Because of the sort of vibration.
Yeah.
I cycle off-road cross country.
Yeah.
So this
Pastels will just crack, won't they? Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, I like it and I'll probably still come and do a few. But I think I'll
Have to go with something a bit more.
pencils or
Yeah.
like fine ink pen type things that
Yeah.
can be.
Well, on a Monday evening, the fourth Monday each month is pen and wash from July, which is water soluble pen. So what you just need is a pad, water soluble pen, and a brush pen, which is. Ooh,
Yeah.
I haven't got one knocking about. I don't think.
That'll catch up after the class.
A brush pen is it's a plastic tube with a brush on the end that you fill with water, and then you just tip it up and you use it like a brush, so you don't need to take water with you. And then when you wet the pen, you get grey tones and that kind of stuff. So that would be quite portable then, because you could put all you need is your pad in your pannier, and your pen and your brush pen in your pocket. So that's an option. That's another option. So the Monday evening used to be watercolours every Monday, but I've struggled since. It used to be our busiest class, and I've struggled since restrictions lifted to actually get anybody to come in real life. I think out of every month, 1 week out of every 4, I'm actually doing live in the classroom, and the rest are online to 2 people. So I thought I'd do it water-based media. So the first Monday of every month is watercolour. The second Monday of every month is gouache. The third Monday of every month is watercolour pencil, and the fourth Monday of every month is pen and wash. So I thought it'd just make it more interesting. And of course they'll be on, available on ArtStream in the same way.
Pen and wash is lovely. I love doing it.
I love
It's really nice. It's a different skill, isn't it, pen and wash?
It's a bit scary having to do the drawing in pen.
Yes.
That's a bit scary.
Yeah.
Yes. But you get used to it, because at some point you wouldn't even need a pencil once you got your confidence. You could sketch with the pen, because as long as you've got decent paper, watercolour paper is the best for it, because you need to really let the pen dissolve to get nice tones, and then you can put pen back on top again when it's dry. So it's quite fun. I think you'd enjoy that. So that's Monday evenings, the 4th. I think you'd like that, because that.
I think the watercolour pencils. I have.
Yeah.
A bit of a fiddle.
Yeah.
But,
They drive me nuts. I can't.
Watercolour pencils.
No,
Oh.
well, I'll give it a go. You can also get things watercolour, like the water brush pens, but you can get like watercolour pens.
Yes, that's right.
Can't you? With
Yeah.
a brush on that you just take with you if you wanted to do a wash, couldn't you, Barry?
Yeah. You've got watercolour markers. We sell sets of them. We do Albrecht Dürer ones, and they're just like marker pens, but you wet them afterwards, so you can colour it in while you're out, and then when you get back home, you can add the water, and then you've got colour. So there's loads of different options now.
I'll try a few different things. I like this. I think I've learned a lot about transferring what I
Yes.
onto.
You see, we were talking about this in class the other day, and it's very different because we're working from a photograph than if you're working from real life. Because you know, in something like this, print it off. You've got it probably printed off at home. You've got that, and you can go right. That's that end. That's that end. That's the bottom. That's the top. But in a landscape, you don't have that. And you've got, if you look just slightly an inch to the left, you've got a whole different view, and that way. I don't do very many real life classes, just because I don't get out much, and but it's interesting when I have done the odd one. What I always say to the students is to find boundaries, whether it be a lamppost or a tree, or a curb or a rock. So so that tree on the left, you don't go beyond that. That lamppost on the right, you don't go beyond that, and that rock there at the bottom, you don't go beyond that. So that's your frame. You can, but the issue is, I mean, I see people doing all of this business and or they've got an easel and they stick a mount to it. But the problem is with that is if you're looking, I mean, if you only have to look at your finger like that and look beyond your finger and then move your head half an inch, what you're seeing around it is totally different. So unless you're exactly in that position, it doesn't work. So it's better to find natural boundaries, and then you know even if you get up, go to the loo or have a cup of tea, you come back, sit on the same spot, you know that is your boundary that side, that is your boundary that side. On a scene like this, it would be quite difficult because there doesn't seem to be many natural boundaries. It's just more hills, so you'd have to sort of draw a line with it somewhere. But I like this because of all the different layers.
I'll just
take a photo.
Take a photo, and then use
Yes.
the photo to sketch.
Yeah, exactly.
outline,
Yeah,
and then go
That's
back
a
to
good
real
idea.
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you see, I used to teach outdoor painting before digital, so it wasn't. That wasn't an option then. So having a smartphone with a camera now is a massive.
It's a bit small,
But it gives you an idea because you use your smartphone to give you your boundaries, but then real life to give you the colour. But also, if you're out longer than half an hour, your shadow and light will change. So then you'd use your photograph to remind yourself where the shadows were. It is complicated because Monet is quoted as saying you only paint outside for half an hour, and some people took it that he only ever painted all of his paintings in half an hour. But what he would do is he'd do half an hour at the same time every day for a week or what have you. Because again, if you change it too long, the lighting changes, the colour and the tones of everything changes within a week. You think this time of year how things have gone from bare branches to full green foliage within a couple of weeks, so it's very difficult. So half an hour is your optimum time before your light changes, but a photograph will help you remind you the angles of all the shadows.
That gives you the outline, won't it?
Yes, yeah, it would give you the basis of everything. Yeah,
And then
or just do like Monet,
just do a bit.
weather's similar.
Yeah, go back out. It's tricky because I mean I've tried to photograph a sunset so many times on my phone, and it doesn't give me the colours that I can see. You know, even I've got a decent camera on my phone, and it changes the oranges and the pinks, and it just. But if I've got a photograph to refer to, I could quickly block the colours down that I can see, and then even if I went back at home, I know the colours and I've got the basis, so then I can merge the two together.
Like a test card.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, and then you can match that, and you'll see how different your eyes are to your photo. Because a camera flattens images, doesn't it? It pushes dark things darker, and it makes light things lighter, and you lose mid-tones. But your eyes, when you're looking at them in real life, sees the mid-tone more, unless you've got a really good edited photograph, like this one, because it's got some really good. It's got some really good layers in that. But what's going to be interesting with this is it's all trees, it's treetops, isn't it? So it's how to make it look treetopish. No tree trunks, no.
not even in the reflection.
But I'm now questioning the more I'm looking at it, that pale purple mountain at the back, it is a mountain, not a cloud, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it looks billowy like a cloud.
It's definitely a mountain.
It is definitely a mountain.
The one below, you could be forgiven for thinking that was billowy as well.
Yes. Yes.
There's some mist in between
There
the
is.
back mountain and the ones in front. There's mist.
I mean, there's lots of layers, which should be quite good for us, hopefully. Now, I'm wondering, you haven't got a white pencil today, if you notice, because it wouldn't show up on this paper. I think the pale blue will be a good one to sketch with. The one that you've got in your hand, Kath. Look at you. So
I'm
it's
on
like,
a roll this week, Barry,
you-
aren't I?
you are. Impressive.
I'll try and do my drawing class this week, actually.
While you're in it.
Graphite.
Yes. Your pastel owl was really nice, though. We did a drawing class last week where we did an owl emerging from a spruce tree or something. And Kath said, "Oh, I fancy doing that in pastels," and you did, and it was really, really good.
That was lovely.
So we're kind of going to have to wing the shapes today, because if I try to measure every up and down with a finger, it's going to take us 3 years to do that. So we'll just give ourselves a rough boundary. So for the very, we'll work from the back layer forward. So the very back, almost slightly off centre to the left, 3 fingers down is where that first peak is. So that would be that peak. About 3 fingers down on that bit. But then the left hand side drops over 4 fingers. Nearly a whole hand width, really. Down. So if I do that and then rise slightly and go nice and bumpy, it kind of rises for 2 to 3 fingers, then drops. There is, isn't there? And then it goes back up again slowly to the same sort of height with a little bit of a extra bulge across the top, and then drag it across. I mean, we don't know where this is exactly, so it will help because we won't actually say where it is. So nobody can say it doesn't look like it, can they? Now there is actually, on this part here, there's a second bit of a layer that goes up and then sort of disappears into that section. Can you see it? It's slightly darker tone. Well, let me enlarge the screen for you in the room. I have that many things to press in the morning now. I never know what I'm pressing. Right, that bit there.
Yeah.
Slightly bluer than that bit, and then we'll work on that shape, which basically starts just a thumb width or so down under that peak. I'm going to do the bold bit first, and then that runs down. I'm going to treat it like 2 separate mountains. It's quite fun just to follow a line and try not to be too accurate, because I don't think we could even if we wanted to, because that we've kind of got this little bit here kind of comes down in lots of segments, doesn't it? If you look at it, there's like a little section that runs down like that, then you've got a slightly little curved bit that goes down like that, and then you've got another lump that runs down like that. So we've got lots of little layers.
I haven't got a putty rubber.
Oh, you haven't? I haven't dished the putty rubbers out.
Operator.
You have got 2.
I have. I noted that. Thank you very much.
Forgotten.
Thank you. I love the way these are all frilly on the edges.
Yeah, no idea how that happens. So about
Hello.
hello. So about a thumb width down, there's another little bit there. You smell nice. Clean. Like that. So we're not going to worry about reflection today. We'll wing that in our own special way. So it looks like a bit of a mess of lines at the moment, doesn't it? So those are like the background bluey ones, and then we've got a triangle of dark green on the left hand side, which, ignoring the reflection, is about 4 fingers up, and it goes in 4 fingers. So this is where I think, and we'll go slightly upwards, and it's 3 fingers high. Yeah, that's about right. So it's level with that. It is. So we'll ignore the reflection. See, that nice little spot of grass would be a lovely place for a house, wouldn't it? On that right hand side bit.
A few goats.
Yeah. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Chickens.
Now this land comes a little bit lower. It's only about just over 3 fingers down this bit, but it does kind of curve. Because if you imagine we've got the trees there, but if we kind of bend that round, but this is where it could go wrong. You need to cheat a little bit and have this bit as a good acute angle and not a curve. This can be a bit of a curve, but if that's a curve, it'll look like we're looking down rather than across. But we've got that cluster of trees, haven't we, here, that we can hide all of that. Yeah, it's massive. And then we've got another pointy little bit there, and then a dip, and then another big rise like that. Does that kind of look? Kind of look like it. A little bit. Oh, I forgot to put my on air sign up. Just in case any tattoo visitors like to sign. In case they're getting pained or something. So what's interesting, if you take a look at the reflection for a second, reflection's fascinating because it all depends on your elevation on what you see reflected. And when you look at the reflection, which we're not going to draw in, we're just going to do that later, the very background mountains you cannot see because they're further away, and it's all to do with our elevation. And I'm trying to remember, the higher you are up, the less distance you see reflected, because you're only seeing more sky, whereas the lower down you are, the more. Because I remember going for a walk not so long ago, and there was a little farm building in the distance, and I was on the lane, and there was a big puddle. So I crouched down to the ground to see what I could see, and if I crouched down to the ground, I could see the farm building reflected in the puddle. But when I stood up, all I could see was the immediate surroundings reflected in the puddle. So yeah, height is a big thing. I may have to have a 5-minute-ish phone call at some point today, if my phone goes. So I will warn you in advance. I've been informed that Global Radio may want my opinion on the state of the economy and how it's affecting small businesses. So I can't really say no to that, can I?
Well, I suppose they do need to talk to people and get food and so.
Yes.
They're not. Yeah, no, they've got to be properly informed. As
Yeah.
you say, it doesn't take much to know, does it?
No, but what's happening is you find a lot of the forecasters and whatever don't actually make it what real life is. You know what I mean? Because they're sitting in an office and they'll say something. So I'm a member of a group called News Page, which every day or whatever, if there's something about, they ask for your opinion on certain things. And then I'm in Sky News today online with my comments, and then from that somebody said, can we possibly contact him to see how things are and how it's affecting real life small businesses, rather than some guru expert in an ivory tower who's never been in a shop predicting what it's like.
It's all about, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's all about footfall.
Yeah, it is. Because there are times, and this is what I've said about many things, like when we have an old town party, I can get 4,000 people in the town.
Yeah.
I can't make them buy anything. That's not my job when I'm organising an event. That's the shopkeeper's job. But like I say, me and Jackie have said, you can't sell to nobody.
No.
There are times now, I could put a sign in the window that said, everything free today by 4 o'clock. And I know I would close with as much stuff because there's nobody walking past. Nobody will see it. And it is footfall, but it's not easy to come to Banbury now.
I walked into town today, you know where I live.
Yeah.
I live up on Sinclair Avenue. Ruscott.
Yeah, so it's the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, the other side of Ruscott. I walked into town today, I didn't stop once to cross roads for traffic.
No traffic.
Straight.
So it is scary.
The only time I stopped was St Mary's Church because the lights were red.
It is quite scary out there.
I mean, this is the kind of overtime I come into town.
Yeah. Why would you do it?
It's not easy and it's not convenient now, and it's not even affordable, really. I mean, I was saying to Kath, if I was to park into town every day, plus my petrol costs living 6 miles out of town, it would cost me £10 a day before I've even got into my shop. So £300 a month of my minimum wage. I'm not really on minimum wage, I'm on less, but we'll pretend for the sake of for my ego, I'm on minimum wage. £300 of that gone. You know, once you get your rent and everything on that, I've actually got nothing left to survive on food or anything if I'm just paying for petrol, parking and rent. Should we do a bit of sky colour?
Yeah.
I think we need to. What I find fascinating with this is the reflection of the sky is darker than the sky.
I reckon that's a bit of photoshopping.
You reckon? Because it's slightly darker. I've picked up this nice sky blue, and what I'm going to do slightly differently is I'm going to rub it on my finger and then transfer it onto the paper, because I only want to give me a subtle tint. And it seems to be more colour on the right hand side. I nearly did it again. I was saying yesterday I've got my left and my right. It's the wrong way round for the last week. Maybe I'm in an alternative universe and I'm...
It's the best place to be.
Yes, I think so.
It's this one,
just a bit.
but it's easily fixable.
Yeah. I think
It's just, there's no will.
there's no will, because capitalism is just the only way we can see in the Western world, isn't it? We're very blinkered. There's lots of things we could do.
It's not. I think it's the requirements of capitalism
Yeah.
that have no say.
I saw a really interesting article that was like, why do you need to be a billionaire? Because there's nothing you can do with it because you can't really ever use it.
Yeah, but imagine if you wanted to like buy a rocket and just fly to space with your friends.
Oh, who would that be like?
Yeah.
I mean, like lots of them.
Yeah.
And pay
Branson,
pay
Bezos,
very little tax
you know, yeah,
in the
yeah,
process.
yeah. Hey, well, if you've got a postal address on Mars,
Yeah.
you don't need to.
I think we worked out that I paid more tax than some of the big corporations last year, which is
I personally,
sad.
I have my own opinion on this one. I think that how much tax you pay should be public,
Yeah.
and you should be proud of how much tax you can pay.
It kind of is.
It should be, yeah.
I think what should be public is how much money you don't have in this country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that would be a more interesting figure to see how much tax they're not
I think it'd be quite.
paying.
I think we'd be really surprised by how many big celebrities, big corps don't actually pay back
Probably,
in.
it would, you know, it'd be enough to pay for the NHS backlog.
Yeah.
Couple of
But when you've got-
hospitals and some schools.
Even companies like BP have said we'd happily have a windfall tax because we've got that much profit now. We don't know what to do with it. You know, they're actually saying tax us more.
So why don't
I know. Oh, it could help so many people. If we've got millions of people that are having to choose, and you know, you've got pensioners that are in libraries and on buses just to keep warm. It's heartbreaking. It really is. I mean, I'm using tea lights, so I'm all right. But you know, right? I'm not going to do the right. No, I've done it wrong. The left. I'm not doing the left-hand side. I want to keep the left-hand side light.
yeah, done.
So I'm just starting. But it's an interesting way of using your finger, isn't it? I want to get Rosemary on a class. Because Rosemary's one of my drawing students and she never gets dirty, ever. So I reckon we get her on a pastel class.
Do you know, I reckon she'd wind up with a little bit on A4.
Yeah, probably. But this way, it's a subtle way of blending rather than just shoving the pastel on. Because sometimes when you put the pastel directly on, you get hard edge, don't you? Have we done this before, Kath?
Yeah.
We have. We're using our finger. Our cloth, yes.
Wet wipes. You know what I mean.
It's funny because your finger goes very shiny. Look how shiny my finger is from rubbing the pastel. I've gone positively metallic. Now, that very distant hill, to me, looks more purple. Do you think?
Ooh,
Do you reckon purple? Like a pale lavender.
Like that.
Oh, I haven't got that, so how am I going to mix that?
Or even paler, do you think, Ali?
Yeah, you see, I've picked up that one, which is a remnant of that, but I think it might even be that one.
That.
Yeah, real pale lavender. Yeah, I think it's a pale lavender. But judge on how much it stands out on your paper. If it's really pale and it doesn't, like, this is so thin, I've got hardly anything to grab.
And it's paler towards the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, so we might have to add a little bit of white towards that, or if you pick up, you know, press down quite hard on the upper areas and then you smudge it with your finger as you go down. I'm not doing this next layer, this is only the very, very back bit, because that bit's a bit bluer, isn't it? So I'm going in with this pale lavender, leaving the powder on, and then just bringing it down to the next line. You might find that's where your cotton bud might come in handy, but I do like using my finger because I can really press down harder. The only thing when you're using the sticks rather than the pencils is that it's very hard to get a decent edge.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go back in with the edge.
of
So
my friends is a real cosmetics guru, and she'd call going on the edge like using a lip liner.
yes, yeah. I might add a bit of blue to that later. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of the blue pencil just on the darker blue pencil on the right side, because it's a little bit darker, isn't it, on that bit? So I'm not pressing down very hard. I just want to tint it with the darker blue. And try and bring it down in a few little angles so it's sort of crevices and creases. And just tap it with my finger. There's a difference between blending, I think, and tapping. If you tap, it gives a very subtle tone. We were doing that with the pigeon, weren't we, Kath?
Yeah.
We tapped with the finger where we just wanted a soft, subtle blend. And we, it does work way, way better. But you see, if I go too dark with this, could end up where I'm losing the softness. So that's the dark blue. But the boat last week, everybody did such a good job. Yours was gorgeous, Kath.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy doing that?
I loved it. I didn't think I was going to, but
Isn't it funny once you start off?
yeah, I really got into that.
Which way is the sun coming?
Well, I think it's
I think it's from the left.
I think it's from the left, but from behind.
Yeah.
Back left. Because if you look at the those three lumpy trees on that peninsula there, they've got a halo of colour,
Yeah.
but it's darker towards us. So I would say it's coming from the left, but from behind. So I don't want to do too much detail in my misty background. Now, I'm going to use a slightly darker purple, if you've got one, and I'm just going to skim it on this bit, but then also go in with my blue pencil on top. You haven't got one? Do you want to borrow some?
No, I'm just thinking if I were to do.
Yeah, that's a nice dark one. I don't know if that
Yeah.
might be too dark, but if you put that the really dark purple on,
Yeah.
but don't blend it, and then just go with the blue, dark blue pencil on top, and then we'll go with white. Do you know what? I think I am going to give you all a white pencil, because that's quite good for blending, isn't it? Getting into your crevices, Kath.
Right, thank you. You can't beat it.
You can't.
Crevices need to be got into.
I just think a white pastel might not be give us enough control for this. So I haven't smudged or blown or blended. I'll use the white to give my blend. And I don't know, I could even go a bit bluer with that, maybe. I will say, whatever colours you're using currently, just to try and remember it, because we might need it for the reflection of this one, although I don't think we will. It'll be the next one that we will use more. But remember that these are hills, mountains and trees, so they're gonna try and follow the contours if you can. But by playing around with tone, I mean, it's almost monochromatic until we get to the greens, isn't it? I can add a bit more white towards the base. White, by adding the white pastel or smudging if you've got enough space, but I haven't, it gives us that misty base to each layer, and that therefore allows you to use the same or similar colours in the next layer above, and you're not really losing anything. I think that looks alright, isn't it? So how long we've nearly 40 minutes in, so we're doing alright with something like this. And we've had a good chat about composition, all of that kind of thing. It's interesting really with art, because I used to belong to several social media groups for artists, but I did leave them because it annoyed me, because they're all, I'm a true artist, I don't believe in rules, I don't follow any rules, it's ridiculous. And I said, but how do you know you're not inadvertently following the rules by deliberately not following the rules? You could actually be doing what you're trying not to do. And they didn't get that. And I said, but there are, you know, as much as I love freedom and expressionism and creativity, there are actually rules if you want it to look right, because if you don't, you need to know what the rules are in order to not make it look right. It's like Picasso. His portraits actually, he was trained by his father, who was a great still life painter, but Picasso was actually a pastel painter, and he did portraits in pastels in his 20s that were photographic. They were amazing. But as he got older, he was dealing with the rise of photography, so people then wanted photographs because that was the new art. People didn't want portraits done properly, so he used his skills in knowing how a portrait should look in order to make a portrait not look like a portrait. And he's famous, he said, you know, learn the rules like a pro, but break them like an artist. So you have to know the foundations, because if you want something, there's some famous examples of like fake perspective where people have deliberately made someone fishing in the foreground but his rod is behind a mountain in the background and all of that kind of stuff. So it changes your perception, but without understanding perspective, you couldn't cheat that, you know, you couldn't make it not work. And it's the same as if you want something to convey a certain feeling, if you don't understand the theory or the rules behind it, you don't know if you're breaking them or not.
Totally.
So there are, I mean, I love it when people are expressive and do abstracts and all of that, but they don't learn colour mixing because they think it's not real, because they don't want to learn the rules. But then how they can't replicate something again because they don't know how they got there. They won't learn perspective, and they won't learn.
It must be so much harder when you don't know the rules.
Of course it is.
So,
We'll just look at life.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It's like,
I mean, you know, if they're not aware, for example, the difference between mixing cerulean blue with yellow as mixing ultramarine
Yeah,
with yellow.
yeah.
Although, to be fair, a lot of it, if you've got colour sense, you can look at the two colours and go,
Yeah.
"Nah."
Yeah, but you may not know why, so you could make a false mistake further on with phthalo blue, which is basically a brighter
Yeah.
cerulean blue.
so you could
so-
invent your own rule to say mix the things this way.
Yes.
But then you'd find out that they're the same as everybody else's
Somebody
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's good to have a foundation, and that's what I don't know whether it's like that now, but doing a foundation degree at college in art, you're not actually taught the foundations. I had a student come to me on a colour mixing day, which was 55 quid, all materials included, and lunch. And by lunchtime, she said to me, I have learnt far more in this first half of today than I have in 2 years doing my foundation degree in art. And that's costing me thousands, and this has cost me so far 20 odd quid. And I'm having lunch. And that's kind of sad in a way that they come into some random bloke in a backstreet art shop and they're learning more than they'd be taught at degree level, because it's all about express yourself, and which is brilliant, but you need to know why and how and what.
And really good abstract art is incredibly technical.
It is. There's far more. I had some students who were a bit derogatory of Jackson Pollock, say, well, anybody can do that, any child can do that. So we did a lesson painting like Pollock, and they found how hard it was, and that they weren't just randomly throwing colours. They were thinking, I need a bit more balance and harmony. I need to spatter some red over this side. And I said, so it's not actually just like having some sort of tantrum with some paint on a canvas. There's a lot more thought process behind it, and it did make them understand that world a little bit more than they thought. So it's fascinating. I am a big believer in rules. I mean, guidelines. I don't know. Rules sound a bit harsh, but it is how it is, unfortunately. Right, I've got a teal pastel in my set. Do you have teal? Yes, because I reckon this one is quite teal, but I am going to throw some of the ultramarine blue pencil in this. Now,
Which one have you got?
it's like a nice duck egg.
Is it one of those?
That one.
That one, is it?
And I'm just going to roughly hint at some of this. Not so much pressure for this, because that one is further away. Because you want to start to add more elements of greens as you get in, but I do need to really make sure that I'm darkening parts of this with the blue pencil. But you can actually see when you're looking like this how the light on the right hand side is far more sporadic, because it is all lighter on the left hand side, but then you have got, so that doesn't look very natural at all. But what I may well do is put the lime green pastel on the light side, and see if that changes the greens somewhat. But again, it's all textures and trees, so I'm trying to be quite loose and swirly with my pastel pencil to try and give me that texture. And I am going in with the blue as well. It does make a difference having that lime green pastel pencil over the top of the teal and the ultramarine. So I've used the teal pastel pencil, the ultramarine, the dark blue pastel pencil. That looks a little bit better, but I might add some element of white in with this as well. There's a slightly different thought process with pastels than there is with watercolour. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Dee.
Yeah.
Because you know, you can just drop in a bit of colour. You can't drop in and spread with pastel pencils in the same way. So you do have to really layer it up, because you can't mix in the same sense. So I'm just looking at all the dark bits, and I'm randomly going with ultramarine, teal, or green, and then I'll be playing with some white, I think. How you finding this, Kath?
All right, thank you.
Jolly good. Good answer. I think it's going to be difficult to get the tree textures, if I'm honest. I think that's going to be the hardest thing to try and achieve. And I don't think it really matters that much if we don't. Let's try a bit of the green. I tend to use in something like this. I tend to use the pastel pencils as a guide of blending together. So if I go in with the white, let's see if that will work. For the misty background. Try and follow the angles of the direction of the mountains with your pencil strokes, because you're not going to get rid of them totally, so you might as well let them work for you, because it's still a bit misty. I don't want to lose, even though this is a mistier one, as you get towards the back, I don't really want to lose the fact that it's in front of that first one. But it's a real game to try and get layers and mist and foliage. But I think in a different medium it wouldn't feel the same. This would be quite tricky in pencil though, because in pencil there's so many tones that are similar. I'm just looking for dark shapes, but I kind of seem to have lost. Let's put some of that green in. More white on that one. Are you covered yet, Dee? This is your second pastel?
Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't expect it to be.
No, don't. Don't put the pressure on yourself, because it's not the same as watercolour. You almost have to think of it like pencil.
I find mountains so damn hard.
They are, and
I don't know why I find them so hard.
But I think if these were like Rocky Mountains, it wouldn't feel as bad. But because we've got tree texture to try and factor in, which I'm actually deciding not to bother about.
Tree texture. Just contours.
Yeah. And this, there are just so many different layers in here that are really difficult to try and achieve. So I'm using the ultramarine, the really dark pencil, an awful lot. And the white pencil to go over and soften where I can. I think that looks all right. You see what you have to be aware of, if we go too dark with this mid bit, then the other greens in front of it will have to be really, really, really dark. So I'm having to try and imagine what a darker pencil or darker pastel will do over that will it stand out kind of feel. But then if you lighten it too much, you actually lose the tones, don't you? So we might just have to go with what we've got.
Walking down Pastels Street, and all of a sudden the lady next to me whipped out a can of hairspray and sprayed. And I thought, hang on a minute.
Get your hair done as well.
And she just hadn't seen me and had just come out of the hairdresser and was applying more so that she could actually get home without her hairstyle vanishing. Well, it was quite funny.
You should have had your pastel. If you got your pastel landscape behind us, you could have fixed it as well.
Absolutely.
I think that works, but there's just so many. Maybe a few dark blue squiggles. We have got a dark pastel, a dark green pastel and a brown pastel, but I'm really hesitant to use them at this point because we'll need them. For the two layers that I've said. But we're kind of applying aerial perspective. We've gone bluey purple in the very distance, and we've gone more of a yellowy green in the mid, and then we want these brighter greens, or warmer tones really, I suppose, in this section. before we move on to these two pieces of land, we are going to have to do a bit in the water with reflections and stuff, I reckon. Which is always a bit of the scary bit. But we'll try and be as relaxed about it as we can. I am going to pick up my blue sky colour. And I'm going to try rubbing it with my finger, because that's all reflection. There's more sky, but here I am going horizontal with this bit of blue. Because water is always horizontal unless it's a waterfall. So if you find it's difficult or it doesn't look quite right, it's every chance that it's because your water isn't horizontal. So no pressure. And if it picks up some darker streaks, that's okay actually, as long as it's horizontal. I can't stress horizontal enough. I've seen no end of lovely paintings over my years, but if the water lines aren't straight, you end up leaning to try and straighten them yourself as you're watching it. But I'm not going to make it as dark as it is in the reference. I might rub a little bit of the pastel right down the bottom left. And that's my sky blue colour. So if that's the water, the more I'm looking at that reflection, I am thinking that perhaps the blue reflection is actually the purple ones that we started with, because it's a similar shape, isn't it? If I look at that funny shape there, that is that shape there. It's just a totally different colour, which is quite annoying, really. So we'll see how we can match that. Where's the purple? Which purple? That one, wasn't it, that I used? And then a slightly darker purple for the other bits. But this is going to be easier than doing the land. And then, now I'm not going to have perfect reflection. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scribble to get as much, because how far up is that? It's about two fingers in total. So I'm not going right to the shape, and this is the lighter purple here, like that. And then that's when I'm just smudging it downwards. Because we've got the other land and stuff to put on after that.
Not upwards, downwards.
Downwards. Because it makes it look wet. The wet sand that we did on the boat picture last week, we did like this, didn't we? We just grabbed it and dragged it down, and it really does make soft lines. Now maybe a bit of darker purple for that bit there, but I've now got to try and remember, because we did that this land, we had teal, didn't we? Which we can't see much more beyond that. And then see if I can find a bright yellowy green just to mimic. And then again we brush down. Just to give us that idea of reflection. Although that teal has given me a horrible shape. Because the reflection, there's going to be reflection from this one and reflection from this one. So we're not really going to see much else, I don't think. So I'm just going to keep it a bit like that. If you were going to give yourself a little bit of definition on that reflection, do a hint of a line and then smudge it, but I would really be quite sparing with the smudging. Because if you wanted to afterwards, you see, you can just put a few white pastel pencil lines going across it. And it just makes it feel quite glassy.
You put that greeny thing in it.
Yeah. I used a bit of teal, and I actually found kind of a yellowy green pastel that I could just plop on top to save it having all of the texture. It's this the land on the right that's going to be trickier to create, which is why this time after coffee break is the optimum time for this. It is. Kath, you having tea?
Yes, please.
What do you have it in a cup? No.
I'd like it in a mug, please, with a sweetener.
A sweetener. Tea with a sweetener. Do you hot chocolatey?
Yes, please.
And Mark?
Black Americano.
Black Americano.
I shouldn't dare touch anything there.
Oh dear, this is a bit of a pig's ear.
My mix too.
And 3.
I think I'd like
look of the smudged pastel rather than just a
Yes,
lined pastel.
yeah.
And I think I'm wanting to smudge the whole thing
Well, I keep smudging, you see, that's
rather
me.
than just letting it be. You know? Oh, this is getting so dark in the middle, it's ridiculous. Oh, I was just watching Moonlight. That looks a good idea.
Yeah, there's like a white
There is a white
in
line,
there,
isn't
so I
there?
just thought it might
Above the,
help a little just to.
yeah,
Along where? I'll do what
There.
everyone else, yeah.
On the edge of the picture, just.
it doesn't go far.
No.
Because Barry's reflecting, it looks like a reflection.
No, no, no. And it's really light
Yeah.
on that left-hand side, isn't it?
It's really weird because those trees just left of centre are reflected. The reflection looks bigger than the actual trees to me.
Yeah, they do. I think reflections, they are bigger.
Because, right, Barry explained this
Oh,
yeah.
yesterday.
so you're
Yeah.
looking.
Because if the tree overhangs the lake, you'll see the underside of the tree as well as
Oh,
the height of it. And if you're just looking down on the tree, I suppose it's foreshortened. But with the reflection, you've got the underside and the uppy bit.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay.
drawing class yesterday, we had just that, and they were bigger in the reflection than they were in, and they look weird.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends on your position above the reflection.
As well, yeah. It can.
Yeah. Looking at that reflection, you know, we've put the white in. It's really dark, the other side of that white. And then it goes lighter again before it gets to the trees.
No, I think mine's the at the going in the bin stage.
That's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't like that one.
No, you can't win them all, can you?
I don't know how we're going to make that look like trees. Stabby.
I haven't done that. That's darker, I suppose, isn't it?
Which bit?
That one is darker.
We haven't done that one.
Did you put your drawing on the Facebook?
No, because it was only this morning. I thought I'd go on it, so I only just asked this morning.
Oh, right.
Oh, the drawing.
Yes. The one you did yesterday afternoon. Did you come yesterday afternoon?
Yes, you know, I'm not sure.
I can't remember whether I saw it or not.
I don't think I think I took a photo of it, but then I actually put it on. I daren't touch anything. You know, those trees. Why that sort of green? Why is that sort of green?
There's a queue, so she'll be. Jackie will bring it up.
Oh,
It should be a minute or two. Right. Let me have a look at what you're doing actually. Nice. Good colours. Layers.
they look layery.
They do look layery. That's nice as well.
Is it at the going in the bin stage, Barry?
Well, it's not finished yet.
No, it's not all over till the
Trust-
fat lady sings, is it?
Trust the process, which is really hard to do with this kind of picture. What? Oh, my camera's gone funny. What I want to sketch out roughly is where, and I'm going to use the brown pencil for this. Roughly in this bit here, there's that curvy bit, isn't there? Where you've got all of this light green and ochre, and another little bit up here. So that's going to be more of a sandy ochre colour and a light green, because everything else is the dark green bits. So we're probably going to be mixing quite bits of green variety and then going in with browns and stuff afterwards. So I've got a nice ochre colour, which is like a straw or a beige, and I'm going to bring that round. It's not the same on the other side. It's quite interesting, this, because it seems very different.
It's quite close down to the water surface.
Yeah, and it's got a little bank, whereas on the other one the trees are right on the edge. And then I want a nice bright green, which is a bit like this one. And let me blend. Push the pastels in so we can stick more things on top. That was quite a bright yellow green that I don't want to use everywhere, just on that bit. But we are going to have to kind of work in an interesting way for this foresty section. Really, we need a dark green, but not that it's not too blue. But I don't know if that. Well, that might work. I've got a dark grass green, I suppose you could call it. I don't know if you can. Yeah, that one. Because the others are a bit too blue, you see. Yeah, that's it. That one. Because that will be your highlight on your trees. So I'm just skimming that everywhere. Maybe on both sides. And the big uns. Slightly less over the right hand side because it's in shadow. Maybe use your pastel to give you some actual tree shapes in the open area, just little downward strokes. And you do actually want to go to town with this in a way, in that you can start filling these trees up. Some of them are going to be more thin, some of them will be quite blocky, so use the whole pastel stick. Because over that side it's much darker. I think my angle of my slope needs to be slightly but I am going to just colour the whole of that triangle in. Not that there's many highlights on that side. I'll be back in a sec. Off the end of this.
Okay.
Chocolate in the biscuit.
Oh my gosh.
Got a little star on yours, Kath.
Thank you.
You're a star.
Oh no. Thank you very much.
And then we're going to go to town with the brown pastel pencil to. You're going to find it annoying because we're going to create tree shapes with it.
Is another word for fiddling.
Mm-hmm. Fiddle, fiddle.
Or should I have white left?
White space. You don't have to.
Phew.
I've got a lot of the paper showing on the right because that's going to be really quite dark. But even if you've skimmed over more, don't matter. So I'm going to give myself a bit of a brown outline. I'm going to work on this side more because it's slightly more interesting than the other one. And I might use the lime green pastel pencil to blend in a few extra shapes and things. But these big trees, they're really huge. What I find interesting with something like this though is the scale. We've got no sense of scale, have we?
No, there's no man-made structures to
So
guide us.
what makes me wonder is how big is that one tree there?
Yeah.
Because that is like
I mean, is
towers above all the others.
it actually big or
Well, this is it. Are all the other things small?
It could be a bonsai tree forest, couldn't it?
It could. It could. It could. And we'll never know. I suppose I could reverse image search this on Google just to see. Well, I've got a dark green pencil. Let's see how can I create some scribbly texture with that. Although it's not a the Derwent. You'll feel the difference actually. The Derwent pastel pencil, because we're using Stabilo. This is a Derwent pastel pencil in Terra Ver, and I find it much harder to work with. But I don't think you've got the Derwent one. You've got a nice Stabilo.
stabby one?
Yeah, I let you have the better ones because I'm very giving. I'm just trying to fill in with this darker green because there's shadow and all sorts, but I don't think I'll put some dark browns in, but maybe I'll throw in some ultramarine as well. I think it's a matter of just play around with the colour until you find something you're happy with. And it is just a lot of squiggles. But if your pastel's too thick underneath, that's where you will get the problem that you won't be able to put anything on top. So I'm doing lots of little M shapes or squiggles to try and create an idea that these are banks of trees, but I'm being quite loose and free with it. Because the light green pastel pencil might come in handy to do the left side of each tree. But it is one of those situations where too many layers of pastel will stop you from actually creating depth.
Unless we use fixative.
Yeah. Get you going on with the terminology there, Dee. You're like a pro.
Occasionally learn. Oh.
Oh, actually, there's a spare dark green one over here. I'm presuming then I've got Christine this afternoon.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Yes, because I won't have, there's nobody else in real life.
And she's definitely not a troublemaker.
No,
She's very well behaved.
she is. She's very well behaved indeed. So I'm leaving the real dark side. It's just very difficult, isn't it, to get that variation so it feels like trees. I'm wondering if a sort of yellow actual pastel will create highlights more than the pencil, because it's slightly softer to sit on the top, but then I don't want it to look like Mr. Manland or something. blue pencil helps, the dark blue pencil. If you wanted to create patches where you've got really dark trees in amongst them. But they are very oval or pointy. It looks so fake. But by using the blue, it mixes with the green on there and just gives you some really nice tones. Whereas the brown can just make it look a bit dead at times. Useful as well as we get towards the that
Mm.
black there as well. Because I mean, this whole section along here is really dark. But you might find a see, I've got a really dark green here that is almost black. Could call it a forest green, I guess. Oh, he's still down there.
I'm not though.
That scared me. Got a cup of tea.
I'm sorry to have scared you.
That's okay.
Hello.
Been busy downstairs, haven't you? Nice dark green. Smudge that in. And then I can use my black to highlight some shapes. In fact, while I've got the colour on, I'm just going to smudge that downwards into the water like that. Look at that. So it's giving me my reflection of the tricky bits. Then I can redefine that afterwards. It's just all trees, trees and trees. Marie's done. Really? Well done, Marie. You posted it already. Does it look good? Online students have already finished. Lots of swirly bits. I need to remember what green I've been using for some of this reflection. I'm just going to blob a bit of that down in the water and then drag it with my finger again downwards. You can almost treat banks of trees like this, you can almost treat them like you would fluffy clouds. Lots of swirly bits. And it's exactly the same for over on the other side, but I'll have some tea first. Are you still feeling it's in the bin stage, Kath?
Yeah, definitely.
It's the darks. Once you go really dark, I've gone.
No, it's lovely in here. What you're talking about. It's really lovely.
It's just not. I've just not got them.
You're not feeling it.
No.
You're not feeling the love.
Well, don't throw it in the bin. I'll have it.
You're going to bite off it.
Yeah, I'll buy it from you.
So if I use a bit of a white pastel pencil on this bit here, look, go around the water's edge, and then a few white lines, distorts it, makes it feel a bit glassy. I mean, we're making the water move in this picture. We're ignoring the fact that it's perfectly still in the reference picture, because we're artists and we can do what we want. No rules. We were talking about how annoyed I get when people say there are no rules.
Well, there are rules,
Mm.
but you can break them.
We've broken most of them today.
Just laws you can't break.
Yes. Well, you can do that, but there's consequences. But it's the same in art, I suppose, isn't it?
No,
There are
laws of physics.
laws of physics.
nature.
Oh, yes.
Governmental laws are just rules. They're not laws.
Yeah.
They call them laws, but they're not.
Not like gravity.
No. There's no defying gravity, is there?
No.
Not unless you travel.
To space.
Yeah.
In a rocket.
We're going to buy a rocket with all of our profits, Jackie.
No, just
We
with,
won't.
It's
just
about
with the
that
money
big.
that we don't pay in tax.
Yes.
The profits, just the money
Yes,
we don't pay in
that's
tax.
true. Right, so I'm dragging down my little triangular bit.
Jackie Bezos.
Jackie Bezos.
Are you Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or something?
Yeah. I'm a high flyer. Don't forget your drink.
You're just a couple of stages behind, so aren't you on anything?
It's the black. Honestly, your black pastel pencil, Kath.
Don't put it in the bin. I'll be really cross if you do.
Ooh, don't want to cross Jackie. I do it all the time. It's fun.
Everybody makes it cross. It doesn't seem to have any effect on anybody, so don't worry about it.
It's easy to make you cross. Yeah, black pastel pencil is the way forward. That really does give us the darks. And then skimming along with a bit of white. From here, Kath, it looks lovely.
You're very kind, but
I'm really not,
looks
actually.
like pig's ear.
I'm not very kind. Well, if you were painting a pig's ear, I'd be very disappointed because it looks nothing like a pig's ear to me. But I'm really not a kind person. I don't mince my words.
Sometimes that is people kind.
Well, yes. That's true, actually. I like people to know where they stand with me. I mean, I'm not unrespectful, but if I've got something to say, it doesn't really matter who I'm talking to. They will be told. I know.
Sometimes it's what people need to hear.
I know Cherwell District Council hate getting emails off me.
Right, now I'm gonna do something wonderful over here. I don't know what.
You could have somebody paragliding, couldn't you?
I could, but I'm not going to, Barry.
Are you not?
No.
Okay, not today. That white pastel really makes a difference across the water.
I'm not worried about the water yet. I'm still
No.
doing trees.
I might.
Shut up.
Thanks,
Right,
Kath.
sod the water.
Yeah,
Blimey.
right, nice sentiments entirely.
So
Did
much.
you say somebody had finished?
Online, yeah, Marie. I've not seen it though. Jackie's seen
I
it.
have.
Have you? You finished.
It's not
You-
complete.
It's a good job you're sitting over there because they'd throw it at you.
No, it's
Oh,
I think
oh, I'm noticing a black splodge in the middle of my sky.
And me.
Oh, Marie's is
Oh.
lovely.
it's the beginnings of your paraglider.
Oh no, now I've made it 100.
Oh, Marie.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh,
Well, she gets
gorgeous.
on me nerves for a start.
Wow.
That's all right, isn't it?
Mm.
If you're still with us, Marie, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
We're fed up with you, Marie.
Yeah, go away.
Yeah. They look all right to me. You're just panicking. Mine's just a lot of scribble. It's knowing where to scribble though, isn't it? That's the thing.
Just a bit. And where did you say to put that white?
I did it right on the water's edge, and then I've streaked it left to right across the paper. But I should be leaning on paper because I've got
I've got stuff everywhere.
yeah me.
Right, white along the bottom.
Yeah, and then I've added a little darker bit. I think it's just because there are so many trees. It's all trees. What am I inflicting on you next? I mean, what's next week's club? Oh, lilies, peace lily. Oh no. Evening reflections and a fishing boat.
Oh no.
Oh, good. Reflections, yeah.
Can't wait, Barry.
I'm not here next week, sorry.
But you actually aren't here, are you? That's
No, I really aren't.
it's
This
not
is-
like it's not like you're skiving.
No.
I'll tell you what, I you know, my hands have gone green. I was downstairs and I said to Jackie, oh, we're doing a lot of green pastels. Look, I've turned green. I've gone like the Hulk. Do you know what she said? More like Shrek. I'll grass her up. I said, does that make you Donkey or Fiona? There was no reply forthcoming.
Funny that.
Oh, Kath, you're going to love it.
Am I?
Yeah, look at that. That's next week.
Oh, cool.
It's cosmic.
Well, that I can just see.
Yes, apart from a little rowing boat and a little man in it.
It may be.
Maybe nothing. A ripple where he's been and gone. That'd be quite nice to do. So it's very different to this. Lots of billowing clouds, and whereas this is slightly more controlled, but it's
Oh,
Barry! Controlled.
ha.
well. I hope you had a wonderful lesson this morning. You've all done really well.
Yeah.
What? Pretend to be nice.
I hope you had a wonderful lesson.
Have a wonderful lesson. I've had a super time. Regardless. Look, if I show you mine up close, you'll see it's just a load of scribbles. Scribbles.
Yeah.
Scribbles.
We were saying that, weren't we, Dave?
Yeah.
Barry looks like a lot of scribble.
Grab his
It's just I left too much of the textured paper showing through, so I wanted to fill it in a bit more. So I did that with the really dark green, which kind of works, but I am getting in a right mess now. But it's the contrast where it's the most important, isn't it? With you've got the really dark black bits, and then the much lighter areas, to show that we've got the light coming from the left.
I'm happy with my sort of
No, it's nice.
background mountain ranges and the sort of amount of transfer perspective and
Yeah.
shapes across. So my big ones are okay. It's just that sort of
That melee of green.
that is just way beyond my.
But you know what? I'm trying to think. In watercolor, this would be really difficult, Dee, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Because it's just
Yeah.
it's just too much, and you have to work from light to dark. In acrylics, you could probably do this, because I would almost certainly paint this big peninsula in the foreground. I'd paint it black first, and then I'd stipple green on top, so I can be more sparing with it. Maybe in gouache, it could work. I don't know.
What about watercolour pen? Crayons.
Maybe, but I don't know. I think it's getting that texture of trees and making it look like trees. I think that is the hardest thing to get looking right, unless you go much softer and forget that they're all trees and just have it as a blur background kind of feel. But maybe the black pencil is quite important. So it is coming up to 12 o'clock. I'm absolutely, look at my hands and my fingers, I'm filthy. So yeah, it'd be quite nice next week, totally different, lots of pinks and purples and fluffy clouds and all that jazz. It may not even take 2 hours next week, Kath.
Oh.
Depends how speedy you are.
Better.
Well, yeah, take a look at the July to December classes because there's lots of exciting things in there.
Have you got a copy of the current timetable?
Hmm?
Just want to know, is it?
Trying to find clean fingers. Oh, your fingers just don't
Oh.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop that. I don't. Have I got too much lime green showing through here? Do you think?
No, I don't think so.
No. Because it's more solid, isn't it? The trees in the photo. Right, I'm stopping. Before I get more on me than is on the paper. I think that works. I wonder if this will be stream of the week. Would you be voting for it, Kath?
I might be voting for yours.
But when you take a photograph of it, you know how it changes, how it looks. And you end up seeing it like the way you're seeing mine on a screen. So it is very different with it as an image rather than
Oh,
something that you've done. You see, I think that's gorgeous. Really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have a look. Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like it.
That dark is really nice. The dark has made a massive difference.
In the end, I smudged it.
The textures and the depths are
Yeah,
great, really.
it's all about the dark.
Mm.
I think that the dark is essential. Do you want me to give that a fix?
Oh, yes, please. I've got just gets so dirty, don't you?
You do. That's the fun part, and also the
I like
awful
the mountain.
part.
I like my mountains at the back.
I like that dark really works.
Yeah.
So let me. I know I'm still recording, but I think you can.
Oh yeah.
That works, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that does work. Yeah, that is nice.
Thank you. It is nice. I like it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you could go even blacker on
I
the right
could.
hand side.
Yeah.
Because it's that real dark contrast,
Yeah.
and that's what suddenly brought Dee's to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes Marie's look nice is that the contrast. Do you want yours fixed, Mark?
We may as well. Yeah. Certainly going it more on my clothes.
Dust.
But you've got some nice, lovely purple and blue shades in that
Yeah,
background.
it's, like I say, I'm happy with the sort of the shape of it and the big lines. just all the little
But
lines.
if you imagine you were doing this on site, you'd have your photograph and you've got your colours, and then you could decide to work it up afterwards, or
Yeah.
you know.
No, your big lines are nice.
Again,
They're there,
Do you want
they're
to see what that
right.
looks
Dum,
like on the
dum.
screen?
yeah, please.
No, the,
Yes, and it goes front, middle, back.
yeah.
Oh, it looks better.
Oh, you
Yeah,
see?
see?
Oh,
There,
you
doesn't
see?
it?
It does,
Yeah.
because you're seeing it reduced, and you're not.
Yeah.
Even though it's enlarged, you're seeing it from a
Yeah.
distance
Yeah.
from your own
See, I think
eye
that's
line.
nice.
There's a lot of stuff in it for 2 hours, isn't
There
there?
is.
really?
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
could do this. I mean, to be honest, if you've got a massive sheet of paper, do you want me to fix it for you?
Please.
If you've got a massive sheet of paper and a whole day,
Yeah.
I think it would work even better. It's just very difficult to try and do in 2 hours. So that's the thing that you have to remember, that you didn't know what to expect when you came in,
Yeah.
and you've only had 2 hours to get it done anyway. So, you know,
I worry sometimes if I had longer, would I
I'd fiddle.
continue? Yes.
Would I
continue to make improvements,
Yeah.
or would I just fiddle with everything?
well, that's
today?
it. Longer time doesn't necessarily mean better work.
No.
I mean, if you look at the Portrait Artist of the Year and all of that, not Portrait Artist, yeah, Sky Portrait Artist of the Year, that's it, isn't it? Sometimes they can get a likeness within the first 20 minutes, and then over the next 3.5 hours,
ruin it.
they lose it, and it looks nothing at all
Yeah.
like the person anymore.
We're hoping when we're in Edinburgh to go to the Portrait Gallery of Scotland,
Oh, nice.
because last year's National Portrait Artist of the Year's commission pictures in there, and it's fantastic. Saw it online.
Yeah. Was it? I can't remember who they did.
Nicola Benedetti.
That's the one. Oh, it's fabulous.
It was like jaw-droppingly
It
good,
was.
wasn't
It
it?
was in
Brilliant.
the Kathy Lab.
Best one, I think.
Yes, and I just want to go
It
and
is.
see it.
Yeah.
You're correct in that assumption.
I would never have been
Kind of
brave enough
need
to
them.
do that green.
I dobbed you in and told them you all said I
They
was
put
correct.
on,
No.
or he put on.
I dobbed you in and I said you all
because it
told
was
them all that I looked like it.
it was quite a scary green,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Not
Acid
at all.
yellow.
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic.
Hopefully,
Shrek.
I'll be this time next week. I'll be looking at it.
So me.
Well, have a look. How long are you going for?
We're going for
So thank you very much online.
12 days.
I look forward to seeing what you've created. I will take a photograph of this and post it underneath the reference image. And hopefully see you again soon. So thank you very much. Bye bye everybody. Bye bye.